Hey everybody, thank you for tuning in again on Faith by Hearing. Welcome back to the book of John. We're going to pick up our study of the book of John in chapter 4. We've made it that far, so it's flying by. In chapter 4 is really one of my favorite chapters in the whole Bible. As an aspiring preacher, I feel like I could just camp out in John 4 for a while and have plenty to preach from. It actually is the first chapter that I ever preached from. And it was a part of this famous encounter that we're going to look at again today, the Samaritan woman at the well meeting Jesus. It's a well-known story. We're really going to take it slow and break it down. We're going to focus on the first 26 verses of chapter 4 today. And that sounds like a lot, but it's just the first bit of this encounter that Jesus has with the woman at the well. We're not going to read all 26 verses, of course, but we're just going to work our way through it. And if you want to read it on your own, it's verses 1 through 26. So just for some background here as we get going, you'll see in verses 3 and 4, sort of the setting of the story. Jesus is leaving Judea. He's really caused a stir among the Pharisees there, and he's got to get out. He's got to lay low for a bit. And so we see that he leaves Judea, and he is heading for Galilee. And verse 4 says that to get to Galilee, he has to go through Samaria. So why is that relevant? You may have heard this before, why this is relevant, about that he's going to Samaria. But the Jews, which Jesus was from, he was from the Jewish people. He was a Jew himself. The Jews and the Samaritans did not mix. The Samaritans, in the Jews' eyes, were just lowly. They were sort of a half Jewish and half Gentile type of person, and so they just were not thought very highly of by the Jews. And so for this reason, the Jewish people would not go through Samaria. They didn't want to have to interact with them, talk with them, look at them, anything. They were not going to go through Samaria to get anywhere. So that's why it's relevant that in chapter 4, verse 4, it says he needed to go through Samaria to get to where he was going in Galilee. So continuing on, it says that Jesus was traveling and he got tired. He was traveling for a while and he stopped around noon. So we picture this really hot day. He stops to get a drink at this well. And verse 7 says that this Samaritan woman walks up to him. She's about to have her life changed and her mind blown, and she doesn't even know it yet. But verse 7 says that she walks up to the well to draw some water for herself. And Jesus says to her, "Give me a drink." Now, look at her response in verse 9, and it speaks to this cultural divide that I just explained. Verse 9, she says, "How is it that you, being a Jew, ask for a drink from me, a Samaritan woman? For Jews have no dealings with Samaritans." Now, you could stop right there and we could just talk about how culturally relevant this is even for us today in 2025. There's more division now than ever before. That could be religious, political, it could be a racial or social thing. The list just goes on and on. There's more and more reasons by the day for there to be division. So that could be even within the same religious group or political party. There's just so much division. Everybody's at odds with one another. So we could just talk about that and how culturally relevant that is today for there to be a divide and that she's surprised that Jesus would even speak to her. That's powerful in itself. But here he is at the well with her, asking her for a drink. So it gets even better than that. Let's keep moving through it. Once we get to verses 10 through 14, Jesus responds with his reasoning. She says, "Why would you even talk to me?" And he's going to tell her exactly why. So that's where I want to focus for the most part of this video, is verses 10 through 14, which is Jesus' response. And then in next week's video, we'll pick up with her response to Jesus. So just to set the scene a little bit. So verse 10, Jesus responds back to her saying, if you even knew the gift of God and who it is that says to you, give me a drink, you would have asked him and he would have given you living water. So Jesus responds to her curiosity and her questioning, basically says, if you only knew, if you knew this gift of God and who I am, who this guy that's talking to you is, that says give me a drink, you would, it's like mind-blowing. You wouldn't even understand. You would be asking me for living water. And that living water is what I want to focus on, really. What is the living water? How can we get it? How can she get it? And what does it do for us? So that's where her mind goes. That's immediately what she starts wondering. Verses 11 and 12. Verse 11, she says, Sir, you have nothing to draw with. Talking about the water. You have nothing to draw water with, and the well is deep. Where then do you get that living water? So it's kind of like she's saying, you don't even have a bucket. Who do you think you are? What are you talking about? And then Jesus' response in verses 13 and 14, whoever drinks of this water will thirst again. But whoever drinks of the water that I shall give him will never thirst. But the water that I shall give him will become in him a fountain of water springing up into everlasting life. And we'll stop right there. So the living water that he's offering, number one, those who drink it will never thirst again. And then number two, it turns into a well of water itself, which has eternal life. So not only is it water that quenches thirst, but it springs up into a well of water in itself. So what is that, right? It's not a bottle of like Aquafina water or anything like that. This is a spiritual gift that he's getting at. It's not a physical container of water. He's talking spiritually. So it's the gift of salvation. Without it, we're bound to go through this life spiritually thirsty and just wanting something more, always thirsting. We need something to live for and something to believe in, something to place our hope in. That's what we all want. We want this reason for our existence. Why are we here? If we ask for a drink of the living water of Jesus that he can provide, he says that we will never thirst again. And that's good news. He's the one that our soul longs for. He's that missing piece that we long for. There's a piece of us that just feels like a hole within us that we can try to fill with other things. We can try to fill it with hobbies and with people and with good things, bad things, everything in between. We can try to fill that part of our soul with other things of this world, but nothing will ever satisfy the way that Jesus can. And that's the living water that he's getting at. So when we know Jesus, that missing part of our soul is now filled, and we don't have to try to fill it with anything else anymore. And that's what it means to not thirst anymore. So lastly, one of the coolest parts about this living water that Jesus is talking about, and this relationship that he's getting at and eventually drawing her into, is that it will eventually turn into a well of water within us. It says a well of water will spring up within us. That means, number one, we'll never go thirsty again, but it means that we can offer that drink of this living water to others. We can tell others about Jesus and about this living water that he's given us. We can share the good news with others and draw them in for a drink for themselves and share it. Psalm 34 verse 8 says, it's another food and drink type reference, but it really speaks to the spiritual side. It says, taste and see that the Lord is good. So it's like when we offer this living water of Jesus to others and we tell others about Jesus, we're helping others to taste and see how good he is. We're sharing that good news with other people. So if you've been saved and changed and transformed by Jesus, you know what I'm talking about. And you've had a drink of this living water, and you have this fountain, this well that's sprung up within you. and you'll never truly thirst anymore. Maybe for a moment, if you take your eyes off of Jesus, you may feel like you're thirsty, spiritually thirsty. You may take your eyes off of Him, and you may try to fill that peace again with other things. But if you truly know Jesus and you'll turn your eyes back to Him, you know what this living water is about, and you know that you have that well of living water within you, and you've been changed by Him. If you don't have that relationship with Jesus, if you've never tasted and seen that the Lord is good, then the promise that He makes to this woman is the same promise that He's making to you and to all of us. He can give you water, and He can give you rest and a reason to hope and reason to believe and a reason to exist. He can cause you to thirst no more. He wants you to know Him. He wants you to have a relationship with Him. And there's nothing more important that you can do in this life than to have that drink that we're talking about, and to come into a relationship with Jesus. And that means to turn your life fully over to Him and not try to fill that part of your soul with other things anymore, but you truly turn your life over to Jesus. So that's the first part of this living water encounter of this Samaritan woman at the well that Jesus talks to. And we're going to look at her response to it and what she does with, what's she going to do with this information, right? What's she going to do with this call that Jesus has given to her? And we'll look at that in our next episode. But thank you for listening today. Tune in for that. And I pray that this is just a blessing to you. And get in the Word and let's study it together. I'll see you guys next time. Thank you.